Hey there, welcome to Carolina News Now. I'm Maddie Gardner. So glad you are joining us as we get you caught up on the top stories from both North and South Carolina. We are powered by televisions in both states, and a lot of news has happened this week, so we have a lot to get you caught up on. First, forgery, fraud, and now murder. A grand jury indicted Alex Murdaugh on Thursday for the deaths of his wife and son. Now, this comes after prosecutors have buried the disgraced former lawyer under dozens and dozens of indictments for financial crimes against his former clients over the years. Blair Sable is at the Colleton County Courthouse. We're going to get to her immediately. She is finding out how long it took for this to come down.
It's been a little over a year since Maggie and Paul Murdaugh were found dead at a family home here in Colleton County on June 7th, 2021. Now, since then, the state has remained relatively tight-lipped about Alex Murdaugh's involvement, if any, up until this morning when those indictments came down. And while the proceedings that happened here at this courthouse this morning remain secret, as is the case with most grand jury proceedings, it does mean now that there is enough evidence to move forward with a case against Murdaugh. He is facing 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of possession of a firearm during a violent crime for the deaths of his late wife, Maggie, and his son, Paul. The indictments read that with malice aforethought, he shot and killed Maggie with a rifle and his son with a shotgun. Details about how the state connected Murdaugh, though, were not released. A statement from his lawyers read, Alec wants his family, friends, and everyone to know that he did not have anything to do with the murders of Maggie and Paul. He loved them more than anything in the world. It was clear from day one that law enforcement and the Attorney General prematurely concluded that Alec was responsible. They're now filing a motion for a speedy trial and requesting that the Attorney General's office turn over all evidence within the next 30 days. In Colleton County, I'm Blair Sable.
Blair, thank you so much. So much has unfolded in the past year, really 13 months since Maggie and Paul Murdaugh's bodies were found. So we will, of course, keep you updated here on Carolina News Now with that case that is getting national attention. Another case that is getting a lot of attention, especially on the East Coast, involves this little boy. Take a look here at your screen. A little bit of hope this week for this Charlotte boy. Not very many cold cases get cracked. And nearly 25 years after William Deshaun Hamilton's death, a major break in this case. An arrest was made, his mother now being charged with his murder. Investigators say Teresa Black left Charlotte with that 6-year-old back in 1999 and then returned back home without him. His body was later found in Georgia. Brandon Hamilton spent time poring over court documents. He also went to the neighborhood where this mother lived and spoke with a man who remembers the mother and the little boy who lived right next door.
For 23 years, the decomposed body of this little boy was known as John Clifton Doe. That was until Wednesday.
Today, John Clifton Doe has been identified as William Deshaun Hamilton.
In 1999, little William was found in a shallow grave in DeKalb County, Georgia. The 6-year-old was never reported missing. What broke the case? A simple phone call made by this woman.
When I seen that picture, I just screamed, "Ah!" And tears just start. Because I knew that was him. It was no doubt.
In 2020, the tipster, known as Ava, recognized the boy through a rendering made by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The boy's mother, 45-year-old Teresa Ann Bailey Black, was charged with her son's murder and arrested near her home in Phoenix last month. Court documents say Black struck her son over the head with an unknown object. She's also accused of giving him an unknown amount of over-the-counter medicine.
At every turn, this case ran cold until now.
Authorities say Black lived in Charlotte and withdrew William from school in December of 1998 before moving to Atlanta. She returned to Charlotte in late 1999, but without the little boy. Nearly 2 decades later, in this same West Charlotte neighborhood off West Boulevard, David Barber says he remembers them.
I never did see much of her. She stayed inside most of the time. And when I see her come out, she coming out getting in a cab and she was leaving.
And little William.
He never was outside playing nothing like that. I seen him when I seen her. And where she went, she took him with her.
Just a horrible story there, but again, an update 23 years later. they have identified that boy and made an arrest in that case. We're going to stay in North Carolina now, but move toward the coast in Wilson, where police are still looking for the person who fired 3 shots at a Little League baseball tournament. Now, these shots, of course, they sent players, parents, coaches, officials all hitting the dirt, scrambling, wondering what was happening. A scary scene. Justin Lundy out on the coast spoke to one of those parents, and I do want to warn you, the video of that incident of the gunshots being fired at the Little League game, some may find this disturbing. Did want to let you know that before we play Justin's full report. Here it is.
What started off as a normal Little League baseball game between East Chatham and Bull City All-Stars Sunday morning turned violent.
One of the shots impact in the outfield, hitting in the outfield right by my son.
And you can see a cloud of smoke from the impact of the bullet.
And there were several players that were right there also.
The video recorded by Pius Walcourt shows J. Burt Gillette Athletic Complex at 10:30 Sunday morning.
It's just, I continue to watch that video and it still just traumatizes me every time I see it and every time I have to relive something like that.
Stay down! Stay there!
Another parent at the game says they were watching their son when he heard the gunshots and had to make a tough decision.
I had a pistol in my car, and as I was running towards my car, I was thinking, do I go get my son or do I go and get my pistol? So I made a decision to go to my car to get my pistol so I could at least fight back if the shooter approached.
The parent then crawled back to the field to look for their son.
And then I saw him hiding underneath a coach from the other team to my left. And from there, I cover a child from my team.
Luckily, no children were hurt, but a shell casing was found on the ground and the back window of a van in the parking lot was shot out. On Monday, investigators returned to the field looking for answers, while parents, coaches, and children continued to process the traumatic experience.
It's just something, like I said, we never expected would happen, especially at a youth event. I mean, it's just very sad when somebody, would essentially fire shots at anything close to a youth event. I mean, these are kids. They've got their whole lives ahead of them. And for something like this to happen, it could traumatize them for the rest of their lives.
Reporting for Carolina News Now, I'm Justin Lundy.
Justin, thank you so much. Getting the parents' perspective there, really eye-opening, certainly a terrifying moment. We appreciate your reporting there. We're going to move now to South Carolina. DHEC is reporting thousands of ticks of an invasive and aggressive species were recently found on a farm in South Carolina. Now, DHEC is asking for the public's help to find out if they're in other parts of the state. They say that these ticks can kill animals and they can also get humans severely sick. Mary Green has the details from Columbia.
State health experts are concerned because they say this species of tick, the Asian longhorn tick, can reproduce very quickly, leading to what they say are unusually high number of ticks in just one group.
The concern really is that this tick could overwhelm livestock or dogs or people. And so you could be out walking in the field with your dog and you could get, hundreds of ticks that bite on you. They're very aggressive feeders.
Smaller numbers of Asian longhorn ticks were found about 2 years ago on dogs at shelters in Pickens and Lancaster counties. Then last month, a large population of them was identified on cattle in a farm pasture in York County, with DHEC saying their numbers were in the thousands. While these counties are closer to North Carolina, these same ticks have also been discovered recently in Georgia. So health officials say they could be present but not yet identified in more parts of South Carolina. These ticks have gotten humans sick in other countries, but health experts say there's no sign that's happened in the U.S. yet.
This is the first time that we've seen an actual established population of this tick in our state. So the risk is there. What that ends up being, we're not quite sure, but it's a situation, again, we want to closely monitor.
And if people are going outdoors, DHEC recommends using EPA-registered insect repellents, wearing protective clothing tucked in at the waist and the ankles to prevent bites, and checking themselves and their families for ticks after they've been outdoors. Reporting Columbia, I'm Mary Green.
Oh, Mary Green, telling us all about the ticks there. Joining us now is meteorologist Rachel Coulter. I'm sorry I exposed you to those tick images.
It's rough.
You as well. They're hard to see. They're a little creepy. It is an important message, though. If you see one of those, make sure you bag it up and send it to Columbia. That wasn't on my 2022 bingo card, actually.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that one either, but
yeah,
we'll roll with it.
Here we are.
You know?
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Glad you're back for Carolina News Now. Of course, we want to get a check of the weekend weather forecast. It's always our favorite time of the show when you're here.
Oh,
so what's going on?
So we have some scattered showers and storms in the forecast all the way through the weekend, and that's going to be the going trend, whether you're being in the mountains, in the foothills, Piedmont, even out towards the beaches. But fortunately, no washouts this weekend, so that's the good news there. I know we've had some really heavy rainfall over the past couple of weeks. I still could see some of that this weekend. Keep your guard up for that, but overall, this is a very typical middle of July type forecast. So let's talk about temperatures first, and then I'll kind of time out those rain chances. If you're headed out towards the mountains, 80s likely, low 80s for Asheville, 70s more so for those in the northern portions of the North Carolina mountains. Looking at the low 90s for Charlotte, and again, this is about where we should be this time of year temperature-wise, upper 80s, low 90s in Raleigh, upper 80s out towards Columbia. As you travel along the beaches, you're going to be looking at those mid 80s for Charleston, mid to upper 80s for Wilmington, headed out towards the Outer Banks, also looking at the low to mid 80s. So altogether, not too bad for that weekend forecast, but here's where the rain chances come in. So we should be dry in the morning hours for the most part. It really will be the afternoon and evening, and that tells the story. That's 5 o'clock tomorrow. I've got it zoomed out so you can see both North and South Carolina. And some of us will be dry, and some of us will see those heavy downpours and hear the rumbles of thunder, have to move your outdoor plants inside at least temporarily. And you should be good to go, especially once the sun sets. We'll lose the heating of the day, and a lot of that's going to fizzle out overnight. We'll start off dry once again heading into your Saturday morning, and then by the afternoon and evening, get some more of those downpours to form across the area. This isn't going to be a perfect representation of exactly where those storms form, but gives us the picture drying out overnight again, and then we'll see the same story headed into your Sunday. So Maddie, definitely your typical summertime forecast all across the Carolinas this weekend.
Any weekend plans that we should know about, Rachel?
Nothing too crazy. I've got a friend coming in to visit, so that'll be super fun.
You're staying around Charlotte.
I'm going to stay around the Charlotte area.
That's great. Well, I hope you stick around. We have much more of Carolina News Now just ahead. First, we are going to talk about Doc Antle pleading not guilty to federal charges in court this week. He was featured on the popular Netflix show Tiger King, so you might be familiar with that name. Plus, missing persons cases falling through the cracks. Our reporter in Wilmington is investigating exactly what happened after a man died. His family is looking for answers, and a new bill is aiming to help survivors of sexual assault. Plus, we'll have Rachel back with another check of your weekend forecast, so stick around for all of that. Carolina News Now is returning in just 45 seconds. And welcome back to Carolina News Now. So happy you are sticking with us. I'm Maddie Gardner. We are getting you caught up on the top stories from both North and South Carolina this week, powered by television stations in both states. And of course, we will have a check of your regional weekend weather forecast. That is all just ahead. But we start off with a story out of South Carolina in Myrtle Beach, where Doc Antle is facing more federal charges. You may recognize this name from the popular Netflix show Tiger King. Our team actually captured video of him leaving the federal courthouse this week in Florence County. Ian Klein spoke with Antle's attorney, who says they're looking forward to their day in court.
Doc Antle arrived at the courthouse around 2 o'clock for his 2:30 indictment hearing. Last time Antle was here in the federal court, he was granted a $250,000 bond for allegedly laundering money. Grand jury recently indicted Antle on 2 new charges, which included 3 counts of wildlife trafficking and 1 count of labeling violation. Antle pled not guilty to all charges and was dismissed by the judge after being in the courtroom for less than 5 minutes. Antle's lawyer, Ryan Beasley, spoke with us about an hour after the indictment hearing, saying they are looking forward to their day in court.
Charges are from like 4 years ago. So it makes you wonder why they waited 4 years to bring these charges, and it makes you also, want to think about, how all this came about and what's pushing it.
We also were able to catch Antle as he left the federal courthouse, where he denied any comment at this time. The FBI arrested Antle earlier this year for money laundering, but was granted bond with conditions. Antle cannot leave his property, known as the Myrtle Beach Safari Park, which was featured on the popular Netflix series Tiger King. Antle is also facing a pair of animal trafficking charges out of Virginia. Previously, federal prosecutors argued Antle would be a flight risk if he was released. However, at this time, the judge did not add any additional conditions to his bond, despite the additional charges.
Today was nothing we didn't expect. We got a long road ahead of us, and we look forward to, fighting these charges. And Doc, he's very happy to obviously be back at home and be able to care for his animals.
If convicted on these new charges, Antle faces 5 years for each of the wildlife trafficking charges and 1 year for the labeling violation. Antle's lawyer says Doc continues to comply throughout this federal investigation, and his next court date has not yet been announced.
If anybody's ever been to where he works and lives, those animals are treated better than most humans. So it's not about any kind of cruelty to animals. I mean, these are little technical issues that the government is trying to get him on, and we look forward to having our day in court.
In Florence County, Ian Klein, WMBF News.
And Ian, keep us updated on that case as it continues to unfold in federal court. We really appreciate that reporting. We want to move now to the North Carolina coast to Wilmington, where we have some new details on what happened when police interacted with a missing man just a day before he was found dead. Michael Prats shares the man's family filed a missing persons report, but nothing came of that, and now they're looking for answers.
When someone goes missing, one of the first things friends and family do is file a missing person report with law enforcement. These help bring thousands of missing people home every year. However, sometimes the reports aren't filed for weeks, and for some, that can be too late.
Months after their son was found dead, Val Duvray's family still wonders if things could have gone differently. Val had a history of substance abuse, was homeless by choice, and stopped answering phone calls, so his family took action.
In the first week, I was reaching out to Coastal as a concerned parent, and then the second week, beginning of the second week, a week prior to his death, I filed a missing persons with the police.
When Val was found dead on April 18th, the Duvrays were heartbroken. But when they found out police had contact with him one night before his death, their grief turned to frustration. WECT went to court to see the police body camera footage from that interaction, which shows no mention of a missing person report when officers run Val's name through a database and pulls up his record.
Expired registration. Oh my gosh. No operator's license. DWLR.
So, what happened to the report? Police department policy on missing persons reports and state law don't require entry of missing person reports into the national database immediately. State law even allows 30 days in many cases. For Val, 30 days was too late. It's unclear if the report was put into the department system, but the Duvrays believe had police known Val was missing, the outcome would have been different.
Do I think at 2:30, if the protocol with the missing persons had gone into play, would my brother still be here? I know for a fact that he would still be alive.
I reached out to the Wilmington Police Department for more information regarding their missing person reporting policy. And while they weren't able to do an interview, they are working to get us more information. Michael Prats, WECT News.
Michael, thank you again for that important reporting. We know that you will stay on top of that. Your investigations always helping a family, so we appreciate it. We're going to stay in North Carolina now in the Greenville area, where a new bill is seen as a victory for survivors of sexual assault in North Carolina. So this bill would stop the survivors from being charged for a rape kit or a sexual assault kit, but it would also require DNA testing for anyone who is accused of sexual assault. Here's Courtney Bunting with that story.
This bill is providing options. And that's the most important thing for our clients, because we want them to know that they're not stuck with one outcome alone. They have choices that they can make, and that is something that can't be taken away from them.
House Bill 674 is a step in the right direction for survivors of sexual assault in North Carolina. It was signed into law late last week and ensures that victims of sexual assault don't have to pay for a forensic exam. Christina Richard with the Onslow Women's Center says the testing of a rape kit alone can cost around $1,400.
They've already been victimized. They don't want to further victimize them by having this unexpected bill.
HB 674 also requires a DNA sample from anyone convicted of sexual assault or found not guilty by reason of insanity.
That could potentially solve, crimes that have already been committed, but it can also help with preventing future crimes from occurring as well.
Onslow County Sheriff Hans Miller was unavailable to talk on camera, but he says this bill could allow investigators to make stronger cases against perpetrators and could find links between two cases that before seemed unrelated. Richard says that will make for a safer community for everyone.
Oftentimes it's not isolated to just one incident. Oftentimes it's something that there's been multiple victims.
Courtney, thank you so much. Back with meteorologist Rachel Coulter. Rachel, we want to get another check of the weekend weather forecast as we head into the weekend.
That's right. We're going to see pretty typical summertime forecast for us really across the Carolinas. If you're listening in from the beaches or if you're listening in from the mountains, really all of us can expect your normal heat, humidity, daily pop-up showers and storms across the area, and that's going to start off on Friday as well. We do have this front that's kind of stalled out over the Carolinas as we wrap up the work week, and that'll be really the focal point of a lot of that activity, but you can see the coverage there. That's 5 o'clock on Friday. There's some isolated to widely scattered showers and storms across the area, and of course temperatures will be pretty close to that 90-degree mark in the Piedmont, 70s out towards Boone, low to mid 80s along the east coastline. We should see a lot of this activity, and this is what you'll notice through the weekend as well. Once we get beyond sunset, we lose the heating of the day. A lot of those storms should weaken, fizzle out, waking up dry, and then will be added again for your afternoon and evening hours on Saturday. So there's your morning on Saturday. This is about 8 o'clock. Notice the 60s and the low to mid 70s, just depending on where you are. Of course, cooler in the mountains than what we'll see elsewhere, with highs in the 70s and 80s for our higher elevations, and then mid to upper 80s around 4 o'clock to close to 90 degrees by the afternoon, with some additional showers and storms possible. But all of those should fizzle out as we head into the start of your Sunday. So any morning plans, walking the dog, grabbing some breakfast, headed to church, should be good, but just have the umbrella on standby. Keep your local weather app handy as well. That way, if you start to hear the rumbles of thunder, you can check radar, move those plans inside, and then those should be good to go.
All right, yes, we will certainly be checking in, Rachel. We appreciate the warning there. I want to keep you around because I thought we needed to end on a really happy, positive, good note, and I can think of no better way to do that than with video of a puppy.
You're not wrong.
This is a news story, I will assure you. I want to introduce everyone to Hank. So the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, they introduced their newest K9 trainee, Hank the puppy, and his trainer, Lieutenant Brady Branham, who you see there. So Hank is 6 weeks old. He's absolutely adorable. It's hard for me to watch this video and not use like a baby voice. For the next 10 months, Hank will be undergoing socialization with his lieutenant, and then afterward, he'll go to the SCD&R K9 training. He's a chocolate lab, if you can't tell, and he's going to learn how to help officers track people and detect wildlife. Look how sweet he is. And he's going to be so smart, Rachel. I mean, can you even handle that? I love him.
He's pretty great with that little vest and everything.
I think that's what it is. A dog in a vest.
Right. And his name is Hank. That's my favorite fun fact about me. My favorite thing is dogs named like human
humans
names. You know, like just imagine a dog named Peter.
Look at him.
Or Frank, you know, and then
or
you got
Hank. Hank's adorable. We wish him the best of luck. Hopefully here on Carolina News Now we can continue to check in with Hank and monitor his progress because personally, I mean, why wouldn't you?
Precious.
So sweet. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Carolina News Now. Once again, we are powered by television stations in both North and South Carolina, getting you caught up on the top news stories and the weather forecast as you head into the weekend. So we're so glad you're joining us once again. You can find us every Thursday evening and Friday afternoon. We are wishing you all a safe and happy weekend.